Hey everyone, this is a continuation. This is my day 36 of my quarantine distraction videos. So if you didn't see 35, which is when I built these, you might want to check that out. Two parts. In this video, I am showing how you can efficiently make a set of bowls that match out of the pinch method. So here are my bowls that I've been doing, and they all four have a little carved and slip trailed little design on it. They all have a foot ring, and they're all approximately the same size, form, and they will be unified by color as well. I show some of the tricks when you're trying to make an efficient set of things to keep in mind, and some of the quicker ways that you can work. So hopefully you enjoy this. Shoot me any comments below in the comments if you have any questions or have an idea of something else that you'd like to see me work on. I have a running list of some videos that I'm doing. I just wanted to do a few more hand building videos for the people that have been asking me to do some hand building videos. So I hope you all are staying healthy, so stay safe, stay healthy, and keep potting if you can. The way I left it yesterday was I had leveled the top and I leveled the foot ring. So I know that the pot itself is level. At this point, I'm ready to go ahead and start cleaning the sides. Now the inside is not terribly dented, it's the outside that I want to focus my attention on. And for that, I'm going to use the shredder or the surform, and I'm going to try to pull it around the pot in a fashion sometimes where it's diagonal, but I want to do it in a fashion where I'm not creating flat facets. I really want to have a smooth, rounded surface. And as I work, I might just scoot all this debris to the side. When you pick it up and set it back down, be careful not to set it in debris, obviously. Now this is the point at which I kind of wish I had my other shredders, which for some reason I didn't realize I didn't have any of them at home. I use them mostly at school because at home, with my personal stuff, I just do wheel thrown pottery for the most part. At school, because I do all sorts of hand building with the kids, I have two other shapes of shredders that are very handy. I have lots of other videos on them, but there's a long and skinny one where the blade is bent side to side. I really like that one. The blade is about this long and it has a handle on one end. That is really great for like getting a contour right in here. Now, I can do without it today because yesterday I did take a little extra effort with my rib when I first attached the foot ring, and I tried to get that contour looking pretty good. So I know it's not terribly dented in there and I'll be okay, but it is nice to have one of those long ones in your studio. I'll try to link it in the video description since I don't even have it here to show you what it looks like, but I do have it in all sorts of other videos on working with slabs. This rib that I've used before, I don't think I mentioned it, but this is a Mud Tools platter rib. They have some shorter ones too. This is a one that I had at home. It is a great tool for all sorts of different things, and I was using it for the interior to like rib the interior because it's a real strong rib and it can do a nice job. It's almost like a wood tool, except it has a little bit more flexibility. Now I should check out the overall thickness is probably still a little too excessive, so I want to thin this down a little bit more. And I wasn't thinking because I was just talking, but I did rib off some of that texture, which wasn't necessary quite yet because I wanted to get more of this thickness of the wall down first. You can pinch it thinner initially, but I like to leave it, especially with my students, I like to leave it a little thicker with them so they have room to really even it and surform it. Because if my kids go really thin, and it's lumpy, then they have no, means to get the lumps out with the surform, because then it might be too thin. All right, that thickness is looking a lot better. Now I'm going to go back over it with the rib to get rid of some of the surform or the shredder tool marks. Now when you do this with the, like I'm using the Mud Tools small metal rib, I curve it. So as I hold it, see how I kind of bend it? The curve allows you to kind of cup the side of it. If you don't curve it, and a lot of my kids haven't quite mastered this sometimes, if you just do it flat, you're going to end up probably with a flat spot or a facet, which is not what you want. You want something smooth and consistent. At least that's what I'm going for here. I'm gonna take the shredder and I'm just refining the roundness of the foot ring. I want to make sure that the foot ring itself looks round. If it has a point or corner, I want to resolve that. Okay, now I want to look at the interior of the foot ring, and for this I'm going to add a little reference mark so I know how big or thick I would like to have it eventually. All right. And then I'll just scrape and sculpt it to get it to match. Okay, and then I'm going to round the bottom of the foot ring so it's not going to have real sharp corners. I want to actually round that transition so it's a softer edge to the foot. And then I will also round it on the exterior some as well. Now, everything so far has been with the metal rib. Now, once I've done the metal rib, I'm ready to transition to the yellow rib. Now, the yellow rib has less of a scraping quality about it, and it has a little bit more of a compression quality about it. So I'm going to make some pulls in one direction, and then I'm going to put my hand inside, make some pulls going the opposite direction. And again, I'm cupping it. I'll do down here at the foot, just like I did with the metal rib. And here's an advantage to having the baby ribs that are matching in contour, because if I use the same shape, the same contour, it matches up in there as I'm cleaning. All right, and after yellow comes red. And the red has the super smooth finish that it can do. Now, my pot is leather hard. If your pot has gotten a little bit beyond leather hard, if it's not quite compressing it super smooth like mine is, you can always dip your rib in a little bit of water to add just a little bit of moisture to it, and that will help some. So to clean up the rim of the foot there, I'm going to add a little bit of water. and compress with my fingers. Not a sponge. This clay that I'm using, this is the stoneware that I use at school. This brown stoneware is grogged. I do not want to sponge it. If I sponge it, I would end up with a really groggy surface. All right, so the outside is looking pretty good at this point. Now I want to concentrate on the interior and the rim. So for the interior, I'm looking to see, is my wall an even thickness? And if I need to shave some off in some areas, I'm just going to come in here and shave it ever so slightly and carefully with my metal rib. But remember, I did the majority of the smoothing on the interior. When I pinched it, I used that stiff green rib on the inside. The more you can do on the day you pinch before it gets leather hard, the easier the cleanup is later. Now, if I needed to use a surform on the inside, this is a perfect instance where I would want that long tapered one that has the curve to it that I was talking about, that I would have used on the outside of the foot, because you could go down in there like for the top couple of inches and use that surform. This will not work on the inside because it's a flat blade and it would gouge. You would want a blade that's more rounded. Now these are pinch bowls, so these are not going to have the precision of perhaps something that might be wheel thrown, of course, or maybe even slab built, but it's a fun technique and it's perfectly utilitarian. Okay, and after metal, then I go to yellow. The advantage too of baby ribs is that you can get down into small spaces that perhaps you cannot with larger ribs. And as I'm doing the edge, I'm quite simply just sculpting it with my ribs to round it. I do want to show you another idea that you could use if you would like. So this is just an old, like you can see, it's an old credit card. If you wanted to create notches, and I do have a video on this where if you wanted to see how I actually made these, you can create a notch in the edge of a card and draw it along very gently and carefully, and as you do it, it's peeling away the clay. So you're sculpting the edge so it has a really consistent thickness and contour. Again, you don't have to use something like this. You can quite simply sculpt it with the ribs. I will say that sometimes my beginners don't quite have the understanding of when to use this. You have to use it only when the clay is at that leather hard state. If it is too plastic, you'll easily gouge it and you can kind of mess it up. I also dip my fingers in water on the rim, just like I did on the foot ring. It helps to smooth it out. Compress it, gets the grog down. So there we go. This one is looking pretty good, okay? So I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to allow this to stiffen up a little bit more, and then I'll work on the other ones. One of the things I'll mention is when you're trying to make a set of things, you want to try to match not only the upper diameter, but the foot diameter. So when you look at this, you can see that I'm setting the finished one on there, and I'll do the same thing when I do this, because when I surform that down, I'll get that to match. All right, I'm getting closer. Still need to go a little more. Okay, outside diameter looks like it's pretty much matching. So I'm ready to clean. Now, when you get a lot of debris that you're transmitting, just keep your rib cleaned off after every pass or two. That'll help to prevent the transmission of the debris. And again, after you got rid of all the surform marks or the shredder marks, then you can go to the yellow rib. Don't be premature though and go to the yellow rib while you still have those indents. You want to get rid of those with the harder rib. When I do the interior, or when I do the exterior, I often like to have my hand on the inside as support so I don't bend the wall, especially if it's just on the little flexible side. Now, if you have dry, crusty stuff on your rib, get that cleaned off before you move on. And then a little water on my fingers. Now, as I do the edge with the notch, it has a flat spot where I can see it didn't get down all the way, so I just keep going until I make sure that I'm entirely filling that notch so it doesn't have a flat spot, so the contour is all even. It's a fun thing to try. Some people don't like it, some people do. So whatever works best for you. And one thing, I think I forgot to do this on the other one, which I'll go back and do it. I also dip my fingers in water on the rim, just like I did on the foot ring. It helps to smooth it out. Compress it, gets the grog down. Adding a little bit of water with my fingers and compressing it. And here, again, I'm just using the comparison of the original pot to make sure that I'm getting the diameter and width of the foot ring correct. And I'll do the same thing with the top to make sure that I'm getting that comparison and getting them the same diameter. For whatever reason, this one did not look as even. I don't know if I did something when I was doing the foot ring, but it looks like it was just a wee bit tilted. So I'm just getting my eyes down level with it to fix that rim. Okay, so my pots have dried just a little bit more. I'm able to kind of knock out some of the debris that I have in there. And I have one final plan for my design, and my towel that I had over the top of it did blow off, so it looks a little dry on the rim. That was inadvertent. It wasn't supposed to get quite that dry. So I am creating a little panel on each one that will be an accent of color when I glaze it. This panel, I'm also going to be slip trailing. So for carving, I'm using a sharp, well, I shouldn't say sharp, but it is the Kemper mini ribbon tools, the ones that shape like a triangle. Okay, and then I'm just carving the design in there, and I'm going to use a little slip. Now I have a video that I just posted, I think it was last week, on how you can create slip for slip trailing. I keep some slip in a squeezy bottle, and I always put plastic over the tip of it so it doesn't get dried out when I keep it in there. And then I am just going to add slip trail dots. So as these dots dry, they're going to begin to shrink, and then I will take my finger and just kind of pat them down a little bit. And I will also sign. I have one very final thing that I want to do, and that is on the inside. If I have any slight little dents or anything, I'm going to just take a wet paintbrush with water on it, a stiff bristled paintbrush, and I will go over any of the nicks or marks that are on the interior. Now, that will result in a brush texture, which I do not object to, because when I glaze it, you won't even notice that. But occasionally, like with your, maybe the end of your rib, you'll get some nicks or something down in there. Pinch bowls are probably the hardest out of all the techniques to attempt to keep it super, super, super smooth and nick-free down in the middle, but this is one of the easiest ways I find. Alrighty, there we go. I have my pinch bowls done. They're ready to dry. Now, when I do dry these, I am going to flip them upside down, dry them upside down, and I will put a towel over them when the slip is dry enough. As the slip dries, I will take my finger and just pat it down. It's still a little bit pointy right now, but I will pat it down just with my finger while it's still in that leather hard state, and that will make it a little less pointy and sharp when it fires. I hope you enjoyed this. Try yourself some pinch bowls if you never have. It's a fun way. And think about when you're doing sets, you want to think about all those things that make them a set. Diameters, height, width, form, all those little details. So I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and keep potting if you can.